Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tattoo Homewreckers, a podcast where we talk about tattoos, life, and everything in between. My name is Callista, and this is
Gaia.
And today, we're going to talk about home improvement stores, but before we do that, we haven't done this in a while. What does your gender feel like before I get into that?
I'm going to say nothing. I do not feel connected to, anything today.
Okay.
There's a million things going on in my brain, so, the human form that I take is not there.
Yeah.
So
your gender feels like a to-do list?
Yes. Yeah, there's literally a to-do list right in front of me. That's what she's looking down at right there. Yep. Of all the stuff I have to do right after this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am not here at all.
Right.
And I want to be here with you guys because I love you and I want to do this. But my brain is on the million other things I have to do right now.
Totally. I feel like my gender feels like somehow Princess Peach and Bowser at the same time. I am both. I am both the princess trapped in the castle and the person who put me in there. So that's what my gender feels like. I want to talk about home improvement stores because...
I just want to say, I like to think about that the other way.
What do you mean?
But I think that's because I watched the movie. So, Princess Peach is a badass.
Yeah.
And just poor Bowser.
Poor Bowser for having to deal with it. I haven't seen the movie.
How the fuck are we friends? It's such a good movie.
I ask myself that question all the time.
Yes. What the fuck?
Yeah,
we have to watch that movie when we get a chance. It's such a good movie. Okay, and then you're not Princess Peach, the game where you're like, oh, poor thing. She just keeps... But I think you're the one that said it, that, you think that they secretly have a love affair.
Well, yeah, I mean, this bitch is willingly going into the castle at this point.
So I feel like she's the master manipulator. Mm-hmm. And if you watch the movie, you're like, oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're like, that's
what's happening.
Yeah. I want to talk about home improvement stores because I just straight up had, a full-on, I wouldn't say, panic attack, but emotional riff in Home Depot recently that I was just so upset. And I remember going into the store because I needed to get paint because we're just working on some home stuff right now. But I need to get paint for cabinets, and I wanted to ask for help. So first of all, I had to basically chase someone down and ask me for help. And there's this thing that happens when you are a woman in a home improvement store and when you're a woman who's alone as well. And I feel like maybe a lot of people would have to relate to this, but I'm not a DIY girly. I'm becoming one, but within becoming one means that there is a lot of emotional shit that I have to deal with behind the scenes of just fuck, I feel so stupid, and it's uncomfortable being the dumbest person in the room, of course. But then when you're also...
Can I just add?
Yes.
Most people in a home improvement store are the dumbest people.
Mm-hmm. So
if you work for a home improvement store and you're like, oh, fuck you, brr, 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 you know what? Be nicer. And I wouldn't think that. But,
yes,
everyone in there is typically, especially... Come for me, fucking Home Depot. Home Depot is the reject of Lowe's. So Lowe's, you tend to get more educated workers there that are hey, they know more of what they're doing. And then, especially you pointed out, Home Depot is the fucking pothead version of that. And
I did.
Y'all know I love my weed, but what the fuck? Why am I explaining to you why I need this product and you're arguing with me when I'm the one doing the fucking project?
Well, it's hard because it's
so
why am I
stupid?
Fishing for information? So I basically, what had happened was I asked a young man about cabinet paint, and I was just hey, I'm trying to look for cabinet paint. I just need it white. I don't know if you guys have matte or anything close to matte or whatever. And he was just nope. This is all we have. And I was okay. And no options were given at all. And I was just trying to again fish for, I guess, just options. And I'm this cannot be the only paint that you have in the fucking store, dude. I just saw your website. It says that you have shit in stock. And I was just whatever. So I got frustrated. I ended up leaving. I texted you and I was just dude, I feel like Home Depot is just run by a bunch of stone teenagers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It just sucks because I'm basically it's almost pulling teeth to get more information out.
Did?
Absolutely.
So, if for anyone watching, she looked away so she could flip her phone over. Mm-hmm. So the callus that she just peeled off her hand instead of being so polite that she didn't put it on the desk, she put it on her phone.
So I could throw it away later.
So she can throw it away later. But she's talking to you while peeling calluses off. Meanwhile, she's like, I'm a girly, peeling fucking calluses off her hand.
You know, and what have we said again?
Yep.
Like,
is that your Bowser size?
Yes,
right
it's my Bowser side of like, listen, I want to be a DIY girly, and this is part of that process, is also knowing that like it's gonna be frustrating, especially when you're talking to men, because the look he gave me, I just felt so like a child, like who got in trouble and was like being like, it was almost like I was being punished for being not smart enough, which is awful.
So. Okay, a little flip side on that. I know what the fuck I'm doing in a home improvement store. Fucking have done a million different home improvements over the years.
Yeah.
I can do drywall, I can do plumbing, I can do mild electrical, not super crazy, but I know how to replace lights, fans, like an outlet, any of that shit. I know how to do it. I'm not stupid. I have lots of experience doing this. I walk into a store and now I know bring headphones. And also when I walk by and somebody is like there's a look that they give you. So for every like male identifying person out there who's going to find this really offensive when they feel like it's just, this is like a guy versus girl situation here. It's not. It's that in a home improvement store, most of the female workers, or like outwardly presenting female workers there, tend to be on the nicer side,
100%.
Whereas the like male workers tend to have that condescending side of them. And this being fair across the board of like how we teach masculinity in this country, that anytime a person that presents as like a woman is speaking about this stuff, they tend to be quite condescending. So I walk in with headphones. Typically I have, like yesterday I went to Jamba Juice, wherever the fuck it is. Had a protein smoothie, and I'm just walking through listening to my own music, just beatboxing along. Guy like sees me and he's like, "Can I help you with this fucking attitude?" And I just turned, I was like, "Nope." And just kept drinking and walked, because I was like, I know the exact bolts that I am currently going for. You don't. You don't know what I'm doing. Leave me the fuck alone.
Dude, meanwhile, I look lost as fuck and no one comes up to me and I have to chase someone down. And then when I do, it's like I get punished. Like, he like looked at me with such a way that I was just like, I am just asking for help.
So Caboose and I were talking about this, and it's this thing that's happening, not to try to defend them, but this thing that happens where they get confused when we are asking questions. So like when I have stuff, then I'm like, hey, this is the plan, blah, blah, blah. Caboose and I just had this, we won't say fight, but like discussion earlier this week about like a project that I have in mind, because if you know anything about us, you know I'm the person that like, I'm the idea person. Excuse me, I just burped. I'm the idea person, but I do not have to like write everything down. It all lives in my brain. So woe is me to all the people around me that have to deal with the fact that I'm like this, and this. And you guys are just like along for the ride going, what the fuck? But when he starts to like question, it is done in this condescending, shitty manner. And it's because that's how they are taught to like defend themselves like internally. So that way they don't feel stupid. And that's what I've come to realize with most men when talking about a project, or like when I'm in a home improvement store and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for this. And if they don't know exactly what the fuck you're talking about, they will get this fucking attitude.
That makes
where
sense.
I am the problem. And I'm like, no, bitch, you don't know your job. And so now you're upset that I just asked you a question you didn't know the answer to, because you feel emasculated that I'm in here doing this.
Well,
whereas if you watch them talk from like man to man, it's super buddy. It's the whole reason why I take Caboose with me, or I have to go by myself, because it also gets frustrating, just like with mechanics, that like when there's a man, they'll just spend the whole time talking to them, and then Caboose will be like, I don't know, she knows.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because like when you ask a question to like. And again, like this is just an accidental, non-accidental episode on basically the patriarchy and how women are treated differently. That's my biggest thing is like, you know, I already walked in this Home Depot being like, oh my God, Callista, it's really not that hard. All you're doing is painting cabinets. It shouldn't be an emotional thing, but it is for me just because I'm inexperienced and I hate being the weakest person on the team. I hate being the most inexperienced person on the team. But I was like, you know what? We're going to do this. It'll be fine. Had that interaction, got pissed off, left. Fucking was like, I'm just going to drive all the way over to Lowe's. That was my solution.
Because Lowe's is better.
Mm-hmm.
Lowe's is better for a couple reasons. Sorry, I'm going to interject here.
Okay.
The store layout is much easier. Whereas Home Depot...
they're not, like, out of shit as much as Home Depot is, right? Like,
that's exactly what Caboose and I were talking about, was that Home Depot has... Because they have so many things, they don't have anything. Because they have, like, we were looking at, like, switches, and they had 7 different types of switches that work on a timer, so that way when you go into our, like, bathroom, it will just automatically turn on the light. Because I hate light switches, and fuck, they're gross and dirty.
I just
spoiled. Don't like walking into it. So, like, the bathroom at Mark Studios, we were placed with, like, an outlet that you just, like, or with a light switch you walk in, it's just automatic.
Yeah.
We did that at Mr. Shorty's in South Carolina for that actually, in South Carolina, it's because for some reason the light was, like, on the opposite side of the room.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. So now I want that for my bathroom, so that way I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. And it's just automatic, and it's done, and it's easy. So... we go in, we're looking, and there's 7 different fucking switches, and then the one that we want is out. And I'm like, because you fucking stock a million different types, and all of them, just to be very clear, there are only 2 types of those switches. So when we were looking, like, what the fuck is the difference? And he's over there, like, now we're at a point where he can be like, I don't fucking know this. So he doesn't have to, like, puff up and act like he knows it.
Yeah.
But, like, that's why, because it's horribly organized. It makes zero fucking sense. When you go in, you're like, oh, there should be some sort of flow. No, it was designed by fucking morons that don't know how to lay anything out. So you're like, wait, what? Why? Why is it like that?
The whole puff up thing too, like, it's interesting because typically when I have a conversation with someone who's, like, down to help me, you kind of unlock this just now talking about the whole puff up. When I ask a question and they don't know what I'm talking about, they'll typically ask another question back. Like, oh, okay, well, tell me what you're doing. What are you working on? Like, what's the whole deal? Are your cabinets already painted? Have you already, like, prepped them? Like, what? Tell me step by step, like, kind of where you're at, so that way I can best help you. But, like, when it's a one-sided conversation, much like how I had at Home Depot, and I'm, like, basically, like again, pulling teeth, trying to just ask for help. I understand logically it's not that hard to, like, get paint, but there's a fuck ton of different kinds of paint in that fucking store, and I also just need a general direction. But anyway, so I was like, I'm going to go to Lowe's, and then you texted me, you're like, we're actually going to go to Home Depot right afterwards. So I was like, you know what? Find your balls. I'm going to do a U-turn at this light. I did a U-turn, walked my ass into the Lee's next door, got myself some alcohol, didn't drink it. I was just, we're just going to take a breath.
You're just taking a handle of vodka into
fucking chugging it and then going to Home Depot. Yeah. So
no, I just imagined you in Home Depot with a handle of vodka just
fuck you guys. Yeah, no, straight up. So I deregulated. I got my fucking beverages because I was like, you're going to have a beverage when you're done with this fucking thing. Walked right back into Home Depot, fucking bought satin paint because, like, we had talked about it being flat, but, you know, all they had was satin, and they didn't even have semi-gloss, like, pints or quarts or whatever. They just had satin, which is annoying, but whatever. I fucking got it and I fucking walked right out. I was like, you know what, it's fine. Then finally started painting again. But yeah, the whole experience is hard because when I'm, like, at a Home Depot, the journey starts literally in the parking lot because the looks I get, what you know what I'm talking about, right? Men, old.
Well, I mean, I look like this with pink hair.
Yeah, but it's older men look at me.
In. Yeah.
And it's like, they look at me and they're so, like, almost, like, angry that I'm there. And I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? And Caboose and I went, and he had told you after our experience, he's like, I've always known that men are gross, but, like, I fully got the experience of it because we were in line and this dude would not stop staring at Callie. Like, it was disgusting. And it's either I'm getting stared at with disgust or I'm getting stared at and being completely fetishized. It is just a horrific experience from start to finish.
It's honestly why now when I walk in, I just, like, have a fucking beverage and it always has a straw because I'm like, here's the deal. You're going to either glare at me thinking I don't belong here when fuck you, I know more about this shit than half of you do. I'm watching you struggle over what bit to buy because you didn't come fucking prepared. Or you're going to fetishize me. So you know what? Go have a wank later. I've got a fucking milkshake. I'm going to like suck on a straw so you will envision and that's your tiny little dick. But like whatever gets you to leave me the fuck alone is like all I care about at this point. Because like it doesn't get better with age. It's not that like, it's just that I've grown so used to being in that toxic ass environment. Like Caboose pointed out the other day that he's like, oh man, you're like better. Cause I used to have a full on meltdown every single time we went. And then it was more so he got better because anytime you need assistance, like if you need them to get lumber down or anything that's on a high shelf, I will typically climb now because fuck off. I'm not waiting 30 minutes for you to come help me. But we had to get a pallet of lumber down because we were building some, as she said, cabinets. So we had to get that down and it took them 45 minutes to do it. And I understand shit takes time, whatever. But while we were waiting, typically Caboose would have just like stood and just waited there. And this time he was like, no, we're going to walk around. And like, or more accurately, I was like, hey, we're going to go get all this other shit while we wait for them to do that. But the dude had made like a really shitty joke when we're like, hey, you only have a couple like 2x4s like down here and they're all warped, but there's a pallet up there. Can we get that? And the guy's like, do you really need it? And I'm like, you think you're being funny, but you're fucking not, dude. Like,
well, it's also like, oh my fucking God,
you have
guys.
none here. There's literally 6 and we need 12 of them. Do your fucking job. Restock your shelves.
Yes. And I guess the reason why I wanted to make this episode is just a plea. Can you guys just be nicer? But also just like highlighting the whole, it's so the different experiences that like women and men have in like these situations is so fucking hard and it's annoying. And I was talking to our friend Cole the other day and Cole was just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I had told you that hardware like employees are typically like the most helpful and they're super nice. And then I had told Cole what happened and they were like, gosh, I totally forgot. Like our experiences are probably totally different because I am more femme presenting, you know, and I'm younger. You know, I'm a young girl. I'm alone. I'm more femme presenting. And so, yeah, our experiences are different.
Oh, yeah.
You know
Anytime
what I mean?
I go in, it's always that, like, either I'm being gawked at or I'm being glared at. And now I'm just like, I honestly love it more when they glare at me because I'm like, I'm going to look so comfortable in this store that you've decided is yours. When I have projects to do, so fuck you.
Right, I'm a human being. I'm allowed to, like, exist in any space.
Yeah.
That, like,
and then, honestly, the further away, because, like, in the paint section, you're usually like, oh, cool, you're safe here. But the further away you get, like, as you go into, like, the tools, that's when you'll get deeper and deeper stares of, like, why the fuck do you belong here?
Totally.
And it's incredibly frustrating.
It's hard. And it was cute, too, because I was, like, fucking in Home Depot, and I was like, oh, gosh, I wish Hedge was here. Because Hedge works at Lowe's, right?
Yep.
I don't know if I could say that on the podcast, but sorry, Hedge, if I wasn't allowed to say that.
I mean, but I think that's the thing is that, like, Lowe's is organized better. The way that I like to explain it is it's that, like, Target versus Walmart situation of, like, Lowe's has slightly larger aisles. Yeah. It's just a little bit brighter. It's cleaner. It's organized. Like Caboose said it perfectly, which was like, we walked into that store and it just felt like it was like 50 years old. And you know it's not. You know the store was only built a couple years ago, but it just feels grimy and old and disorganized. And it's just
like haggard.
It's just frustrating because you're like, okay, I'm looking for this, but this won't be where it should be.
Right.
It's just going to be haphazardly somewhere else that you're like, so why do I have it on like both ends of the store to finish the same exact project? Like, why wouldn't it be together? Oh yeah, because it wasn't designed thoughtfully. Like, I don't know that like when they designed stores, they were like, hey, we should put it in like some sort of organization. So they're like, fuck it, let's just throw it all in and just throw it in a blender.
Well, it's a home improvement store, so you would think that there would be like some kind of thought to interior design or like layout. You know what I mean? But
no.
That's my, and so I guess I just wanted to make this episode to highlight, like, women are allowed to know more about fucking DIY projects. It's okay. It's fine. Guess what? It's everyone's world. Again, humanity is just a universe experiencing itself. Doesn't matter what we have in between our legs. We can be just as good at home improvement stuff or even better. That's fine. Or you could be totally clueless. And shout out to all the girls out there that want to be DIY girlies, but know that there's going to be like one hell of a learning curve. I'm right there with you.
Well, can I just state, I think that there are just as many like men that have no idea what they're doing. The fact that like most men don't know, like you've stated before, they don't know what an anchor is. And I'm not talking about what's attached to a fucking ship. They don't know how to assemble their own, like, furniture.
Truly, yes.
There's also this thing that, like, I think that it comes down to this, like, elitist idea of you have to know what you're doing to walk inside these stores. And that goes across all genders. I'm not saying that, like, we as people that are more feminine presenting do not get, you know, abused more in these situations.
Just glared at or fetishized,
but,
yeah.
I think that, like, there's also that level of, like, hey, you have to know what you're doing to come into the store, which is a little bit fuck you. It's kind of the tattoo industry in that sense of, like, oh, you're not one of us. What the fuck are you doing in here?
Well, the whole cool kids club idea, right?
Yeah, and I think that, like, there's a huge problem with, like, you know, men, I say that in air quotes, because that's why most of them don't have nicer places that they live. I don't know that a lot of that is, like, not caring, and a lot of that is them being like, well, I'm afraid to ask for help because when I go in the store, they're gonna be like, how do you not know how to do this? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, there is an elitist attitude, which I also find humorous because I'm like, y'all, a lot of you are, like, high schoolers working at fucking Lowe's. So maybe calm your tits here because I don't think you know how to do this either.
Yeah.
The fact that you can't answer questions about paint, or anytime I buy paint, because I tend to buy paint in really fun colors, you're over there like, when are you painting like that? You know what?
I know.
Shut up.
Always.
If I want to paint my fence purple, I will. And you know what? I've done that in the past. When we bought several gallons of black paint to paint our house, and they were like, why are you painting black? I'm like, my living room. And the glares that we got. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it looks great. Every person that stepped foot in our house has been like, this is fucking dope.
That's so silly because you would figure, like, working in the paint department, you would be excited that, like, oh my God, cool. Like, I never thought this swatch would ever get used because people only come in here getting beiges and grays. And if you have a beige or gray house, I'm not dissing you. I'm just saying that, like...
But also how?
I don't know. Sometimes people are into it.
As somebody who, like, genuinely, I didn't realize how much I was into interior design until as of late, and all of you are, like, pointing it out, that, like, I can't fathom, like, living or working inside of, like, I don't know, like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, this needs color.
Well, it's, like, safer that way. And, like, psychologically, like, a lot of people have a lot of reserves when it comes to doing something fun. Like, that's the reason why people don't, like, have fun colored hair a lot of the times as well. It's because it's safer to not, you know?
No, tell me more. This is not, I'm, like, having a hard time.
I think it's safer to not because they're already weighed down by the perceptions of other people, and they're not, I shouldn't say that they're not living their life for themselves if you don't have fun colored hair. I just think that, like, a lot of people, or like a fun colored house, I think that a lot of people are worried about what their mom's gonna think, or worried about what their boyfriend's gonna think, or their girlfriend's gonna think, or worried about, like, what their friends are gonna think. Like, what if you know, it takes one comment from one person to completely tear down that idea. So imagine going to a hardware store or, like, a hair salon and getting a comment from a in air quotes professional. Then, like, they're like, okay, I'm not doing it, you know? Then they're throwing in the towel. Same thing with colored hair. I mean, it's, like, a lot more work for the upkeep of it. You know, it's a lot more safe to just go with your natural hair color. And I'm not dissing you if you go with your natural hair color, and if you genuinely rock it and you love it, that's amazing. But I feel like a lot of people have a lot of, like, restrictions.
Honestly, I'm speechless. I'm like, my brain doesn't work that way. So to me, I'm like, but why would you be unhappy? Because you're
Matrix.
Scared. Like,
It's the Matrix.
That's crazy to me.
It's a lot harder to live your life on your own accord because it is so isolating. It is incredibly isolating. You start to lose, like...
Do you think it's... I don't know.
I think
to
it's
me,
so
I
worth
think
it.
it's... No, I think it's more isolating. Like, to not... Like, I don't know. We'll stick with the house thing. To not decorate your home. Like... I know everyone thought we were crazy when it was like, hey, we're only going to live in this house for a couple of years. But, like, we're going to put all of this in here. And, like, even now, as we're, like, you know, getting ready to move to the next stage of our life, like, investing time in, like, making sure that your house is, like, a happy, safe space rather than, like, just an empty box. Like, that, to me, seems, like, so much worse. Like, what do you have that's, like, yours? That's, like, fun and, like, every time... I guess maybe not every time, because sometimes I'm mad the house is dirty. But overall, I step into the house and I'm happier. Yes, because it's filled with you guys, but it's more so based on like when I look at the chandelier over I say chandelier very loosely. It's got hanging lights, so I'm calling it chandelier, but really it's a
nature chandelier.
Giant piece of wood with like lights hanging from it. I didn't steal it. They were throwing it out. I repurposed it.
So you dumpster dove for it.
I didn't go in a dumpster either. It was beside a dumpster. But like I see that, and then it makes me think of like us talking about it. It makes me think of like I appreciate my brain for being like, hey, that was my idea, and then being able to like explain it to you guys, for you guys to trust me, for Caboose to like dig out like a dugout canoe situation and put the electrical, the fact that like he has the knowledge for the electrical, the fact that like you and I picked out the plants that went on top, and then we looked at light bulbs together, and then Caboose even had like light bulbs. That like it was this thing that we all created together. So when I walk into our house, I'm like, hey, your house like represents all of you. You know, the fact that your room, we just happen to have the paint that matches the downstairs, which was hilarious because we both like separately simultaneously chose that green.
Yeah.
And it's like one shade different. But I think like for me, it seems so much scarier. It's kind of like the whole Fight Club thing of like everything in his house was like purchased, you know, from catalogs where it's like what conforms and fits and matches. And that to me is like terrifying. So my brain can't work the other way where I'm like, I don't understand how like conforming to other people's or like worries about other people's like perception of you would be safer, because I feel like
the main deterrent.
Yeah, because in my brain I'm like, but aren't you dying inside because of that?
Here's the thing, like it's a different kind of pain, right? No matter what, that's the human experience, is being in pain. So like, yeah, you're dying inside, or I don't know, or you could be completely happy conforming. Who knows? Some people place their worth in being able to fit in. You know what I mean? Like being able to like have the same friend group and stay with the same friend group for years and only conforming to that tribe, you know? Some people are so happy with that and so content, and like that's their level of success. And yes, it is isolating for them too, because like there is a big part of them that like I think it's human nature to want to grow, human nature to want to be different, you know?
Yeah.
So there's that pain, but it is not like at face value, if that makes sense. Like from the outside, it's like, oh, at least they can hide that. On the opposite end of things, when you are non-conforming and you have a fun colored house, you have fun colored hair, you've got tattoos, you've got piercings, you're basically just like, you know, expressing yourself in a way that like only conforms to what you like. At face value, it is isolating because people are like, oh God, like again, people at stores are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you're like, none of your fucking business. Like, sell me the fucking paint, please. Thank you very much. Like,
I'm always that person that I'm like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And then they're like, and I'm like, would you like to see a picture? I can come back in like 2 weeks and show you. Which I've done numerous times because I like that moment of like, look, see how cool that is?
I would love to say something so catty back and just be like, yeah, you know, I just didn't want like a beige house. And then look at them and be like, do you have a beige house? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I don't know. That's crazy to me.
It's
my brain works the opposite way where I'm like,
that's wonderful.
Can't, like a safe place for me is creating those like rooms, like our downstairs bathroom or like our guest room with like the big, like insane, or like Caboose's little like area over there where it has like the space theme. And I mean, you guys, like it's literally space like wallpaper, and then he built like a 3D model of some sort of satellite that like hangs from the ceiling.
It's so cute.
But like having like points of magic in your house and like even in your wardrobe, like, you know, we go to Halloween Horror Nights in a couple days and I'm wearing those pink pants and the Barbie shirt, so like I will basically just be like a walking like, you know, tribute to like, I don't know, like J-Lo 1990, like
that's gonna be amazing
hip hop Barbie. But I think for me, that's where safety lies. But I guess that's where everyone is different. Because I'm like, I don't want to conform and have like, I don't want my house to look like everyone else's. I want everyone's house to have like insane personality, like I believe that people have on the inside.
Everyone
I think your
has
outside should be like reflection of your inside.
100%. Everyone okay, I'm of the belief that everyone's fucking crazy. It just depends on how honest you are about it. I'm of the belief that everyone is fucking nuts.
Maybe that's partly why I like that. Like, I like coming into, like, our friend Matt has, like, a super dope house that's just, like...
Oh, my God.
It's insane. You guys, like, Nicolas Cage, like...
Pillows. Multiple.
Like, it's amazing. It just doesn't make any sense. And, like, I came in and instantly felt safe there because I was like, oh... This is the correct amount of, like, lived in and,
He's got, like, the funniest things, like, hanging up on the walls, too.
Yes.
Like, there's something new to discover every single time we come over.
He's a record player, and he played, like, some record that was then, which was just as insane as all of us.
Well, he, like...
When we played Jumanji, and it was just nuts. Because you just...
He'll buy random records just based off of the cover and be like, wow, or, like, the title or whatever.
Yes.
And, like, listen to them, and they're also equally insane. And it's just amazing. It's very authentic. Very authentic.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think authenticity is hard. A lot of people, again, like, place their worth in fitting in. But wasn't there, like, a quote that was, like, fitting in is not...
What, the Maya Angelou quote?
Yes.
Talk
please.
to them for a second so I can get
I'm
it
going to talk to you guys.
Look it up.
While you look up that Maya Angelou quote, because it's phenomenal. But if you ever place, I don't know, worth in anybody's opinion, you should place worth in yours. You are of equal importance. And if anything, more importance because it's your life.
Okay. So the quote goes... I don't know.
Having some technical difficulties.
Our audio just died. That's not my fault. I guess if it just died,
We're
guys
still recording.
Wouldn't hear that. But yeah, so the quote that Brene says a lot, that's how I was introduced to it, but it's that you are only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place and no place at all.
Especially in a fucking Home Depot, even when the employees are mean to you.
And it's about belonging truly to yourself. And I think that's where, like, I guess this sounds like really, like, shitty and, like, egotistical, but I guess I'm far enough along on that healing journey that I have a hard time being like, but you need to only belong to yourself.
You've been in the Matrix for a long time. You've been doing work for a long time.
You mean I've been out of the Matrix?
Or out of the Matrix. Yeah. Sorry, you've been out of the Matrix.
I was in the Matrix for a long time, too.
If you think about it, only 5 years ago, I was, like, fully still in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was, like, fully, like, still trying to live my life accordingly to other people. You know?
I think that's where, like, for me, it's hard to hear where you're like, oh, I, like, feel bad that I'm the weakest, like, person on the, like, the group and stuff. Mm-hmm. Where I'm like, dude, there's tons of shit that none of us know. We don't know what we don't know.
Oh, totally.
And, like...
That's experience,
you're just learning as you go. The same thing that, like, Caboose and I are learning, you know, that's why we go to couples therapy, because we're, like, learning how to get better all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's probably one of those things, like, the more work you do, the more you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna suck at this shit, and I don't know what I'm fucking doing.
Yeah.
And then you realize that you can't be the weakest person, because everyone's equally the weakest.
You know, Cole did tell me, like, the reason why, like, there's plenty of reasons why we're all friends, but one of the biggest thing is, like, the bravery to be able to not know something and still try to do it. Because a lot of people won't, you know?
Yeah, that's that part of that ADHD that I got really blessed with. That I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just figuring it out every day. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced everyone is.
Yeah.
But it's whether or not you go like, no, I have to just actually try this. Mm-hmm. Or whether you're like, hey, I can't do something because I don't know how to do it. And that to me doesn't make sense. Because I'm like, but wouldn't you spend your life just regretting all the shit you didn't do?
Oh, 100%. That's the thing is like, even like, though I'm frustrated, I'm still so grateful because now when I pick up a drill, I'm so comfy. I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Like I'm still learning how to use it, obviously. But now it's like, the more I do it, the more I'm like, oh, wow, I'm getting more comfortable with using power tools. This is really cool. I'm learning the names of power tools. An impact drill is different than a regular drill.
Okay, to be fair, I don't help there because part of my protest to the, like, egotistical nature of, like, hardware stores is that, it's same as mechanics, I don't need to prove to you that I know what I'm doing by memorizing the name of every fucking thing.
I mean,
it's the same thing when we started tattooing.
Right.
That everyone got really weird about how, like, back when I first started, you had to know how to, like, break down a machine, build a machine. Like, you had to know how to do all of that yourself. And I'm like, why? In no other profession do you need to know how to, like, do everything for a piece of equipment that is meant to be a tool.
It's like in the medical field, right? You don't need to know how to assemble an EKG machine?
Yeah.
EKG?
Well, like, fucking the drivers for NASCAR do not know how to, like, be mechanics.
They can't build a car from ground up.
Yes.
Right? Like, if you can, props, but no.
But that was always a thing with tattooing, and I thought it was just as stupid because it was like that. Like, you know, I started working on cars when I was quite young, and mostly just because we were poor and we couldn't afford mechanics. But, and I've always liked the, like, taking shit apart. But the fact that everyone's like, you have to prove you know what I'm talking about, so you need to know all the names of this. I deliberately was like, I will never learn any of those names, and I will just make up my own. So, like, I was painting, like, plaques, and then I forgot what I called them, but they're the foam brushes, because I
pillow brushes.
Yeah, pillow brushes. Because to me, they're the consistency of pillow, and they're pillow brushes.
And then I asked them, like, oh, are they really called pillow brushes yesterday?
No, they're just foam applicators. They're foam
like
brushes.
How I was like, I need another metal donut. And Caboose was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this thing. He's like, a washer. I'm like, metal donut makes more sense.
Because
it looks like a donut.
Yes.
And it's metal.
Like, you said metal donut, and I instantly knew, like, it was a washer.
Yes.
Because I'm like, otherwise a washer doesn't make any sense.
Why the fuck is it called a washer?
And, like, having to explain to you the difference between, like, a screw and a bolt and a nail and all of that.
Yeah.
To be like, what are these differences? Where I'm like, okay, but if you describe what it looks like, I know what the fuck you're talking about. And I'm not like, oh, you don't know. Like, Caboose does get mad because I will not see the impact. I will say drill, and then he'll hand me the drill. And I'm like, dude, you know that I don't like the drill because it's designed for giant fucking meat mitts.
That's another thing I want to talk about. Just really fast. I know we're a little bit over. Just really fast.
It's our podcast. We can go however long we want.
You're right. Things, when I am a small woman, this is the only time I'll ever admit it. When I'm small and I have to do things, and the drill is fucking huge in my tiny little mouse hands. And it's, like, hard and it's unsteady. And I'm over here like, this is fucking stupid.
But I think that comes to the larger problem that most of those tools are only designed for large individuals.
100%.
So even, like, when you can be a man and just be slightly smaller, it becomes really excluding in hardware stores because they're like, this has to be, like, just made for the largest fucking things. And it really doesn't have to be. If you take them apart and you look at the inside, you're like, it didn't need all that space.
Yes.
It's like the whole thing that we had that discussion about tattoo machines. Like, why are the grips fucking massive? When, let me tell you guys the God's honest truth.
The real tea.
The real tea. Most tattoo artists have small hands.
Very.
They do.
And soft, too.
Yep. They have soft, not strong hands.
That's why my calluses are a big deal, right? Me feeling that shit. And
so the fact that they make these grips to be massive, like they're like, yeah, I'll have these big old meat mitts. No, you don't. You have smaller / softer, most times softer hands than I do,
100%.
Because you're not doing anything with them. Like, Caboose was feeling my hands yesterday because he was, like, massaging them because I've been having some, like, ulnar nerve pain on my right side. Yay, tattooing.
I was doing stretches yesterday. I was just doing this. What was I doing? It was, like, holding the 3 up and stretching this guy because it stretches, like, it feels so good. But yeah.
But he was, like, feeling it, and he was like, Jesus Christ, your hands are so rough right now. I'm like, yeah. And they tend to be rough, but that's my issue is that, like, so many things are made to be big that don't need to be big because of that, like, once again, because of patriarchy, because they believe that things need to be massive.
Our fucking washing machine. My dumbass is literally, like, in it, trying to get the clothes out from the bottom.
Because, once again, it was designed by people who don't fucking use it. The same thing with kitchens. Why are cabinets so fucking tall, but you tell me a kitchen is where a woman needs to be? I put that in quotations. When, like, half the fucking shelves are taller than I can even reach.
No.
Like, it's fucking stupid.
It absolutely is. And so, yeah, power tools, if anyone's, I don't know, in the fucking power tool industry, you guys should, really invest in tools that are a little bit smaller for everyone's usage, because truly, why is a drill, like, literally the size of my torso? And secondly, they're so heavy, and I know that science can go far enough to where, like, we can make them light and make them powerful, but oh, because this is the man's world, it needs to be loud and big and heavy, whatever. But yeah, that's the end of my rant for Home Depot / Lowe's is fine. I'm cool with Lowe's. I was just so desperately wishing I could go to Lowe's and have Hedge help me.
Well, he works in the plant department.
Completely different department.
Yeah,
but
so he can help you with like lawn and care.
I'm sure he could still help me somehow. Yeah, lawn and care.
Yep. All right, guys. So, let us know how you feel about home improvement stores.
Are you comfortable in home improvement stores? Also, I'm so sorry
if you are comfortable. Is it because you have a penis and you're a big dude,
or have you been subjected to child labor throughout your entire childhood, and you're just comfortable doing that stuff now, and you just know a bunch of stuff? Or are you uncomfortable and you don't know what you're doing, regardless of gender? If you want to be a DIY girly, you do not have to be a girly to actually be a DIY girly with me. I stand with you in solidarity. We're learning. Only one way to find out, and that's to fuck around.
Can I just add, is anyone else cringing internally every time she says DIY girly?
Why?
I'm like, oh my God, do you consider me a DIY girly? I consider myself to just be a competent adult.
I consider myself a DIY girly. I'm a DIY girly.
Oh my God. I have not thought of any of this shit being DIY in I don't know how long.
Well, I mean, again,
I think
you're
it's
so far removed from it.
Yeah, well, I think it's because it was never a DIY situation. It was like, if you want it done, you have to do it yourself. Yeah. So they're like...
DIY girly.
No, that makes it sound like a cute hobby and not like no, this needs to be done.
I think it can be both.
Oh my God, you're so silly.
I'm fine with that.
I'm not identifying as a DIY girly.
I'm okay with yassifying the DIY industry.
So yes, you absolutely... be like a advocate for DIY girlies.
Thank you.
And I will be a person in a store just
who is
telling
a competent adult.
everyone no when they walk up to me.
Do you need help? No.
Yeah, that's what you do. When they walk up, if they're nice, then you like absolutely like, no, thank you, I'm good. But for the most part, they just give you a look, and before they even open their mouths, the moment you see that look, you're like, no. And then you just keep walking. It works the same thing with, like, when you think someone might hit on you. And it's like, no.
Boss bitch.
And then walk away.
Boss bitch.
Like, it's like a puppy situation. You just say no to them. And then they'll, for the most part, leave you alone. And if they say anything shitty, you just turn and you're like, your store sucks. That's it.
On that note, see you guys later.
Bye. Can't find the fucking button ever.